what we're gonna do today is indeed we are going to talk about the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and I feel like we haven't talked about this game in quite some time. At least not like a full episode dedicated like specifically to it. So it was finally time. It's one of those things that we've meant to do. We've kind of meant to get around to it, and we've meant to play it, and we've meant to do this, meant to do that, but the stuff comes up, life gets in the way, etc., etc. And so what we finally did was both you and I fired it up. I'm assuming you played it on Switch just like I did. And we beat A Link to the Past. Still a great game. No spoiler there, I don't think. And we are going to return to the well to definitively rank it. And it's been a while since we've definitively ranked something. So just as a quick little recap here, the definitive ranking was a way to rank a Zelda title that was made up by Mossies and Gooey for their YouTube series. And the gist of it is that there are 10 essential ingredients that make up a Zelda game. And so we rank each of those ingredients on a 1 or a 5 scale. 1 being not so good. 5 being like, man, this is just a masterclass in gameplay or whatever it happens to be. The 10 ingredients are as follows: the world, the art style, the story, the pacing and progression, the gameplay and combat, the items/abilities, the dungeons, the enemies and bosses, the side content and extras, and of course, the music. And so we put that all together, we put it in a stew, we boil it up, we mix it around, and then we come out with one final score at the end of everything out of 5, which is kind of an aggregate of all of our different all of our different thoughts and feelings about the game. So it's been a long time since we've done definitive ranking, been forever since we've talked about A Link to the Past. Let's get going, and let's go ahead and let's do some of these definitive rankings. Al, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, so we are going to start off with the world. I think I wanted to see if I could let you go first, but I think I'm gonna kind of take the lead on this one. I think it's gotta be a 5. Right? Like, are you going 5 too?
I'm going 5. I have a feeling I'm going to give a lot of this a 5 because, for one thing, like, we're also considering when it came out, what it did for the Zelda series. You know, it's funny because we are definitively ranking this after, like, kind of freshly definitively ranking Echo's Wisdom, which has some A Link to the Past DNA. So it's kind of funny because I'm just like, I love seeing all the stuff where I'm like, oh, I remember seeing this in Echoes of Wisdom, and that's like 30 years later. So it's just, the world is colorful, interesting, unique, mysterious, it's very fun to explore. It's fantastic.
I mean, yeah, and times 2, right? Like, because you've got the Dark World as well, which we'll get to in just a sec. And I guess, I always say this when I do definitive rankings. I'm just going to say it again just to preface it. But I don't actually make up my rankings before the episode. I like to do it kind of like on the spot. And the reason why is because, like, I feel like if you kind of like make something up beforehand, or at least for me, like I kind of feel beholden to stick to that. Whereas like I would rather just be, you know, a little bit more malleable, or have you be able to influence me a little bit on my rankings. But yeah, I mean, like, especially considering that this game came out in 1991, and I think, like, even if it doesn't come out in 1991, like, the world is still amazing. Like, it's still just a tight, compact, like, dense world. You've got the amazing, like, castle, the centerpiece. You've got Death Mountain really kind of got a really cool glow up in this game, I thought. I think the Lost Woods is like one of the best versions of the Lost Woods in any Zelda game. And you've just got like some interesting stuff kind of going on the bottom too. The desert, the swamp, like there's not really any wasted space on the map. And what's so impressive is like it really does like flip it on its head and get you into the Dark World and see like kind of the twisted version of that. So I thought that was like amazing when I first played it, and I thought that it was amazing when I replayed it. Like it's so expressive, which is funny because like a lot of those SNES games really are expressive in their own ways. Like I'm thinking Super Metroid or even some of the Donkey Kong games, and like the way that this game just presents its world, it really does kind of just have that like mythical, fantastical kind of setting to it. Like you wouldn't be surprised if there's just like a big wizard or dragon or whatever, around the corner. So I think that the world is fantastic. You're probably right. I mean, looking at our list of criteria here, there's probably a lot of 5s to be given out, if we're being honest.
Yeah, this is like a solid game that's withstood the test of time. And like you said, like if this came out yesterday, I really had fun replaying this game. So I feel like I'd be like, oh, this has the Zelda name on it. Let me give it a try. And I would have had a blast if this was brand new yesterday.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it with the art style, but that's also withstood the test of time. It doesn't look like too choppy, and like the world is the same. It's not underwhelming. It feels very lived in. Like everybody has such character in this world, depending on who you're talking to. And there's a lot of mysteries to like unfold. The thing is, you don't even have to unfold, like go and solve these mysteries either. You could just play the game, do the dungeons, and win. But there's a lot of fun to be had if you go and explore more. So it's just a good time.
Yeah. And it's just a smart layout too for the world as well. Like you kind of forget like the interconnectivity of the light world and dark world, and this kind of like approaches into the gimmick of the game, which we'll talk about in gameplay. But like there's a lot of times where you're in the world and you need to kind of smartly warp between light and dark and then back. So that kind of adds like another like little cool element to everything, which makes the world kind of like one big giant puzzle almost, which again is just like really smart design. So yeah, that's an easy 5. And going on to art style, it's probably a 5 too.
Yep, I'm
right?
Like 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
oh my god, we're gonna be so boring this episode.
Well, but I mean, like it really is. Like the sprite work is immaculate. All the enemies look great. I think that Link looks great. He does have the pink hair, which I always thought was funny.
I love it.
It's like so out of left field, but I kind of like it too. It adds a little bit of charm to Link, I think. So that always kind of tickled me. Oh, and I got to shout out Link's uncle's hair and his mustache combo. Hair? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good stuff right there. But I mean, like the sprite work is amazing. Again, one area that just like it just jumps off the screen to me in terms of like art style is when you go into the Lost Woods and you see the mist that's on it, and it looks like it's like coming out. It looks like you're wearing 3D glasses actually. Like it just looks. It looks so spectacular. I think the pyramid in the Dark World, like the way that is kind of designed and structured, just looks like amazing. Ganon looks great. A lot of the enemies look great. Like the bosses all, I think, have like really kind of cool designs. Even like if your pause menu, like the items look really. Everything just looks like really classic and really, I don't know, just like polished. I guess.
Polished is a good word. I just feel like it's so vibrant. All the colors just really pop. The sprite work is incredible for 1991, and it's incredible for today. I just like something that always pops out at me is the colors. So you like in Kakariko, and you see the colors of the buildings, and then when you go to the Dark World, everything's a little bit muted, but still super bright. And at the same time, it's weird. And like like you were saying, all the bosses look fantastic. All the enemies look fantastic. All the like the weird character changes between Light World and Dark World and how they just turn into like super weird looking things. Like that is so fun, and like so it just pops and it's right in your face. And I just think the art style is so like incredible in this game, especially for when it came out. So I mean, imagine going from I can't because I wasn't even born yet, but imagine going from Zelda 1 and 2 to this, and like it's incredible.
It's like a quantum leap for sure. And I love Zelda 1. Like, I think that game is amazing. Yeah. I wouldn't say that I think this game is vibrant, though. I will say that. I think the pixel, I think the artwork looks great, but I don't know if I'd say vibrant. And that's not like a critique or anything like that. I just don't think I'd use that descriptor. What I would say is that I think that everything just, like, is, like, mechanically, it looks so polished to me. Like, it really does look like a lot of detail or a lot of attention to detail went in. It looks like every sprite was. It kind of actually one of the good things about this game is they use a little bit like of the less is more philosophy there with like a lot of the enemies and stuff like that. So like you see a lot of the same enemies, but like the enemies that you see all look great. So I think that's a good decision. I just like it. Just looks again like so classic and mythical to me, and it's like kind of like the video games of old in a sense, because like I don't think, and this kind of bleeds into the story a little bit too, but like I don't think that you get the same tone in any other Zelda game as you get from A Link to the Past, and part of that's the world, part of that's the art style and the presentation. It's very like. I can't, like, when I think of vibrant, like, I think of fun, and this will probably sound dumb, but, like, I don't think A Link to the Past, like, is fun in the sense of, like, its art styles, like, are kind of, like, telling you, like, this is a fun, light kind of game. It has, like, some heaviness to me. It has, like, some weight to it, which I like, because it kind of gives it that, like, almost like Lord of the Rings vibe to it a little bit.
Yeah, true.
And I don't even know if that relates to the art style or not, but I just like I think that the way that the art style is done just looks like so classic and so refined and so timeless is probably a good word for it. So yeah, this is a 5 to me.
I see it. So I just wanted to touch on that. So I see what you're saying, where it's more about the energy for you for vibrant. For me, it's color, and it can have definition in both. So for me, I look at the color, and the color is vibrant, whereas you're looking at vibrant from the energy and like the liveliness, enthusiasm. And so I get it that we have differing views on that. And so yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like and like as I was saying it, that's probably what I meant. Like I kind of was trying to describe what was in my head, and I was like, I don't know if this makes sense, but
yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the story here, Al. Let's talk about the story.
Okay.
What is your score for the story? I'm just going to ask you, and then I'm going to give my thoughts after.
Okay, I'm going to say, again, I'm trying to keep in mind of when this came out. I'm going to say it's probably like a 3 or a 4. I could be swayed, I think, to either side.
Okay.
Because it's pretty simple. It's pretty like, you wake up one day and there's a storm outside, and your uncle's like, stay here, I got to go do something. And then you follow him, and because you're having like voices in your head from Zelda, like, help me. And you get thrown into this adventure. It turns out you're the Link's the Knight, like has the blood of the knights or whatever. And then the 7 wise men's descendants are these girls and Zelda, and they need to break the seal between the 2 worlds so Ganon can come back, etc. Anyways, and the Triforce, all that stuff. It's very simple. I love how simple it is. And again, from when it came out, it doesn't need to be more extraordinary than that. But like, I feel like it's just average, like I wouldn't say it's just the most exceptional thing. I don't think it has to be, but like, let's be honest, it's not the most like in-depth crazy story ever,
I agree. So I wanted to be very careful about my score here. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm going to go ahead with what I was originally thinking. I'm going to give the story a 2. Okay. And the 2 points that I'm giving a story for are for kind of establishing some of the lore that we get in the series. So like the idea that the Triforce will break up if somebody powerful or with a wicked heart touches it. And the idea that there are these like 7 descendants from these maidens that descend from these wise men, like you said. And you know what, the idea maybe that there was an imprisoning war as well. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, those moments in the game, I feel like are very, very few and far between. You kind of get like a little bit of exposition when you rescue a maiden. They kind of tell you like, there's a thief named Ganondorf. He got his hands on the Triforce, etc., etc. And that's kind of it. Like, other than that, there really isn't almost any story in the entire game other than like, you've got to get the 3 medallions, you've got to go get the Master Sword, you've got to go rescue the maidens, and you got to beat Ganon. And like that's your story. And you know what, I do want to say, yes, of course this is an earlier game, like, so this came out in 1991, and story for video games weren't necessarily at like the top of the priority list at that time. But to counter that, I do think that you were seeing some games with really incredible stories at that time. Like Final Fantasy IV came out in the same year as this. And that game's story I thought was exceptional, with Cecil and the Dark Knight and like all of those kind of characters. Metal Gear was also out on the NES at this time too, and that was, and even like you're seeing some pretty cool like text adventure games like at the same time. So I do think that you could have done more. I think that you missed an opportunity in this game to make Ganon into like an actual like character, because he's not really. He's just kind of like a beast. He does talk, but like I would have liked to see a little bit more out of that, and I would have liked to see a little bit more out of Zelda. I mean, you rescue Zelda, and like there's nothing like for the rest of the game.
I mean, there's some moments where you do talk to her if you click on the tiles where you normally talk to Sahasrara. Sometimes it's Zelda, and she's like kind of help guiding you to where she's at in Turtle Rock, and so did the maidens. They kind of help you guide to her, and I like agree with what you're saying, that they do a lot of lore building for the rest of the series that comes 30 years after the fact, but like. And some of the stuff that they say, they clearly evolve and change in the series. So, like, they call these people the Hylias instead of the Hylians, or Hyruleans. They call them the Hylias, which I was like, oh, that's awkward and weird. But, like, again, they clearly changed that over time and, like, to where it's more natural sounding. Link has, like, this connection to the old knights, so only his blood can be the hero. So there is, like, all these little tidbits that you do get from the maidens, that you do get from Sahasrara. But when you do talk to, like, other characters, there's not a very present story, like a present world story that's being told like a lot of other Zelda games. Again, of the time, so I understand. But that's why I'm not giving it like a 5. There's a lot of lore building. There's a lot of like, for Link's adventure, there's a straight line of story right there, but there's not a lot of like outside world building.
And people might hate this too. I feel like there's not really like any compelling characters in the game either. Like there's Link, and I mean, really, I think that's kind of it. Like we said, Ganon isn't much of a character. Zelda's not much of a character. Sahasrara is pretty dry. Like and he's the closest thing you have to a companion. And again, like I'm kind of even comparing this to Link's Awakening, which came out 2 years later, which I feel like is a fair comparison because it was on the Game Boy. So like it probably is about the same level. I think that game's story, like the tone that they set, the character of Marin, I thought was great. Like the animal village, I thought everybody was really charming in there. Whereas like I think most of the characters in this game are pretty dry, and that probably has to do with that tone that I was just talking about. Like this of any other Zelda game feels very much like a mythical fantasy game. Whereas like Ocarina of Time going on kind of has that whimsy attached to it that we would kind of know, where like Link's a little bit of a goof, and you know what I mean, like there's a little bit of charm and funniness, I guess, to the series there. That does not exist in this game. It's very dry, it's very serious, and I think that kind of takes away from the story for me, where it's just like it's just kind of there, like, and there's not really any thought that's put into it. Like it feels like very, very, very basic by the numbers, which I mean is exactly what it is. And I would say this too, like even in most other Zelda games, typically when you get to a dungeon, and this is, well, we'll talk about this later when we get to pacing, which is actually next. So I mean, there's a plus and a negative to this, but like there's usually like some kind of like at least like little quest that you need to do to get to the dungeon, and oftentimes that involves like almost like a little mini story, right? Like like Ruto in Ocarina of Time, or I don't know what, pick your mini story, right? Like you lose all your stuff in the island in Oracle of Ages. But like this game kind of, you just like blitz right from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon to dungeon. So again, it doesn't really have any story to speak of there. And for me, I do think that it's kind of weird because like I'm going to give a lot of this game's categories 5s, but I also do think that it's like A Link to the Past has never been quite my favorite Zelda game, despite how amazing it is. And I think honestly a lot of that comes down to the story, because like it's without characters or like a plot or anything to really get me invested into, it doesn't resonate as much with me. Whereas like if you're the type, it's kind of like talking about Tears of the Kingdom. If you're the type that just likes raw gameplay, like I mean, Link to the Past is top tier. I would say the same thing about Oracle of Ages too. Like that's, you know, like it's top tier gameplay, but like without the story, it's missing that little connection for me. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
I want to go back to where you were talking about like compelling characters. So I'm trying to like when I was playing this game, I was feeling a lot of nostalgia. It's my very first Zelda game. It's like I have like these layers of Zelda in my life. So when I was like 3, it was the first Zelda game that I saw. And then when I was a little bit older, it was the first Zelda game that I played. And so I had a lot of nostalgia for it. And I remember being a kid and being like terrified of Aghanim. So like Aghanim, he feels like and they do this a lot in Zelda. And so I'm trying not to think of like the progression of like storytelling in Zelda. I'm trying to think of the time. And like you have this creepy wizard that even the people in Kakariko are like, can you save us from this wizard? Because he's like causing issues. And so all of a sudden, sure, you have buildup of lore for Ganon from the Maidens, but all of a sudden you fight Aghanim again at the end, and then he collapses, and then Ganon arrives, you know? And if you'd played the first game, obviously you know that Ganon is the big bad, but I've thought that Aghanim was like going to be the big bad the whole time when I was playing this initially back when I was like 7. So I don't know. I felt pretty compelled and scared of the big bad back in the day. Obviously, I know differently now, but like I would say that was kind of compelling. And then the fact that he also like, again, they do this in other Zelda games, but at the time he like captures Zelda in the middle, and he's like, I just want you to see like her vanish before your eyes, and you're just like, oh my god, no, you know. So like there are some moments where I'm like, oh, this is compelling storytelling. But for me, like getting older is realizing that it's kind of average. So I'm going to stick with my 3.
Okay. Yeah. And like, I think that's fair. And I don't mean to seem like harsh. Like there is some cool stuff that the story does, but it's certainly not, I think even for the time, it wasn't like it was setting the world on fire, you know, like there's a lot of cool games, and like you can tell a story with environmental storytelling too. And A Link to the Past does that. But I think like Zelda, for me, needs a little bit more of like a direct narrative, not like environmental story. Like a game like Breath of the Wild, you could tell a lot with environmental storytelling, and I don't know if that works with A Link to the Past as much, if that makes sense either. So, hey everyone, if you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda Cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/the Zelda Cast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.